I'm sure by now many of you have already seen the news coming out of Turkey and Syria, that region. There were two major earthquakes last 12 to 24 hours. Tons of aftershocks, buildings collapsed, thousands have perished. I don't normally cover things like this because talking about psychological operations and events like this usually don't dovetail, but there is a theory that I've had for quite some time that I've kept to myself because you don't want to be rolling out ideas that things could have been predicted or prevented because things like this just happen. But I have found a very strange correlation, and I wanted to share it with everyone and get your thoughts. Now, it was only about a week ago that this very strange cloud appeared over Turkey. Now, to be clear, a different part of Turkey than where the earthquakes occurred, but we've also been watching this green comet transit the skies, the evening skies, over the last week or so. And when I went back through history and found a lot of the biggest, most violent earthquakes, they all coincided, and I have 6 examples, with major, devastating earthquakes. Now, here are 3 of them: 1843, 1811, and 1910. I went through, and here's the article that talks about this, about great long period comets. They also talk about another one in 1882. So 1811, 1843, 1882, 1910. Remember those 4 years. Now, of course, 1811, 1812. I'm sure a lot of my audience already picked that one up. The huge New Madrid sequence that started in December and went through February, and all of the massive devastation in the central part of the United States. Around Missouri, the Mississippi ran backwards. There were sand boils, huge crevices opened up miles long. They had to chop trees down to walk over them. It was an absolute mess. 1843, though, there was a massive earthquake in the Lesser Antilles, 8.5. 1,500 to 5,000 people killed. And at that time, that was a lot of people because this area wasn't all that populated. 1910, April 12, 1910, there was a major earthquake off the coast of Taiwan, 8.1. But that isn't like, well, there weren't that many people killed. But when you go look at the list of the amount of earthquakes in 1910, even the wiki says that Vanuatu, New Caledonia, it was an exceptionally busy year for earthquakes. Now, let's go back to this image. 1811, 1843, 1910, and then the Great September Comet of 1882. There were 2 major earthquakes, one in Panama, magnitude between 7.9 and 8.3. Only killed 250 people, but in 1882, there weren't that many people living here. But there was also a big one in Fort Collins, Colorado. November 7, 1882, magnitude 6.6. Not very many earthquakes in Colorado, but that year when there was a comet, there was. Now, who remembers this from 2011? Doomsday comet Elenin zips by Earth in pieces. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. The so-called Doomsday Comet Elenin made its closest flyby of Earth Sunday, October 16, and no cataclysms ensued. Some skywatching soothsayers had predicted that Elenin's approach Sunday would trigger catastrophic earthquakes and tsunamis. Others had sounded more dire alarms, suggesting that Elenin was not a comet at all, but a rogue planet called Nibiru, whose Earth encounter could usher in the apocalypse. But that was the exact same year that Fukushima happened. So that's now, including the one in Turkey, that is 6 different major earthquakes that coincided with comets that could be seen with the naked eye. Let's go back real quick and cover them. 1811, 1843, 1910, 1882, we got the 4 here, plus 2011, which was Fukushima, and now 2023. A major green comet just in the sky not very long ago, and an apocalyptic earthquake in Turkey. That's 6 different occasions just in the last 210 years where a comet appeared in the sky big enough to be seen, and it coincided with an earthquake. The 1843, the 200 million mile long tail behind that one that would have stretched from the sun to beyond Mars was the one that coincided with the Guadalupe earthquake. And they're saying that that was possibly it was the strongest recorded earthquake in the Caribbean, and a maximum perceived intensity of shaking of 9 on the Mercalli intensity scale. Now, I'm not super familiar with that scale, but 9 seems like that's pretty high. And it killed 5,000 people. And of course, 1811 was New Madrid. Everybody knows about that. 1882, Panama. 1910, Taiwan, and the entire region at that time. And then, of course, Fukushima, 2011, and now this one. And, this was an article I pulled up. Strange happenings during earthquakes. Mississippi ran backwards. Over 2,000 earthquakes in 5 months. Sand boils. Seismic tar balls. Earthquake lights. Warm water. Throw up earthquake smog. The skies turned dark during the earthquakes. So dark that lighted lamps didn't help. The air smelled bad. Hard to breathe. Loud thunder. And animal warnings. The one in Tecumseh's Comet, Napoleon's Comet. It's just very, very strange that you could correlate 6 of them. 1, 2, maybe 3, but 6 of them in only 200 years? I think that might be more than a coincidence, and strangely enough, February is Earthquake Awareness Month. So, anyway, I will leave that there, but on a lighter note, check out We're Forked Up with Lisa Haven and Justice Knight. They've got some really good content. They've got some apparently hot tub content coming and some new restaurants that they're looking at. Just was checking out her and their Instagram. They've got all sorts of really great info if you're in that region about restaurants and just going out and kind of relaxing. And there's so much negative out there. I didn't want to concentrate, solely on negative news today on just this one event, but given that there are now 6 different specific examples, I don't know how you can discount it as just coincidence, especially given the size of the earthquakes that happened during those times and the amount of people, amount of life that was lost. I'm not saying that, as soon as a comet appears, that's when the earthquake's going to hit. But it might be something to keep your eyes open for, in the same, general time span that there might be one. Now, where? It's hard to look everywhere. So I'm not saying that this is some kind of a solution, but I can't imagine that they aren't tied together somehow. Given with 6 examples in just that short amount of time from 1811 to 2023. It's 212 years. So I will leave it there. So, of course, thoughts and prayers for everyone in the affected region. Regardless of who these people are, what they believe, what their religious background is, you wouldn't want to wish this on your worst enemy. So I hope everyone has a good week, and I hope they can recover as many survivors as possible, and they can move on and rebuild. So I will leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and everyone have a great week.